50 years after the LGBTQ Americans took to the streets outside of New York's Stonewall Inn to fight against harassment and hate, we take pride in the progress we have forged together. Our founders, in their great wisdom, wrote in our beautiful preamble of the blessings of liberty, which were to be the birthright of all Americans, to bring our nation closer to the founding promise of liberty and justice for all. We today pass the Equality Act and finally fully end discrimination against LGBTQ Americans.
Hi, my name is Matthew Grech and I am standing just outside the US Embassy in London to discuss what is a very controversial bill that was proposed in the United States Congress in 2019. I'm going to be chatting with friends from Malta, from the United Kingdom and from the United States. Join me now.
On Friday, the House of Representatives passed legislation that would extend certain civil rights protections to the LGBTQ community. The Equality Act would modify the Civil Rights Act of 1964 to ban discrimination based on sexual orientation and gender identity in a variety of public sectors, including housing, education, employment, and public obligations. It passed through the House in a 236 to 173 vote. House Democrats have pushed for the bill as a way to protect LGBTQ people in the more than 24 states that still allow them to be legally evicted, fired, or denied services based on gender identity and sexual orientation. But Republicans criticized the measure in a spirited debate before the vote, alleging the bill would threaten freedom of religion, speech, and women's rights. The bill is not expected to pass through the Republican-held Senate in its current form, which the White House has said it's opposed to.
The concern we have about the Equality Act USA 2019, it's just gone through Congress in the US. It's a bill that includes a clause to ban so-called conversion therapy across the United States. And it's very biased. It's saying it's discriminatory, that it would increase the chance of suicide among LGBTQ people and make them feel like second-class citizens.
We are protesting the Equality Act that the House of Representatives in the United States has just passed, which would basically kill off religious freedoms, freedoms to get out of LGBT world in terms of professional stuff. It will destroy women's sports. It's a huge, huge game changer for the worse. So I'm delighted that Mike Davidson and his group is pushing back, and I'm really excited to be here.
What do you think is the end goal of those who are coming up with all of these schemes?
Their aim is to ban all therapeutic work with people with unwanted same-sex attraction and also gender confusion, and also aim really, as in California, at the churches and religious communities that would offer pastoral care accompanying people with unwanted same-sex attraction or coming out of LGBT lifestyles.
Many folks understand about the LGBT, kind of the rainbow flag, etc. But there are many other sexual minorities coming out now too, and Stonewall and the human rights, some of these groups ignore them because they would give them a bad press, but they are very much coming out now.
How are these sexual minorities affecting the future of what we know as family?
Well, one of the main methods of cultural Marxism, because that's really what we're talking about here, is to distance parents from children. So the sexualization of children via state-sponsored sex ed, that's huge.
The biggest groups would be people like Human Rights Campaign in the US and ILGA, and they've been lobbying all the way up to the UN, actually.
So they have a very powerful representation and definitely a very influential platform. What is the future looking like for countries all over the world? What kind of impact could this have?
Of course, the US can't have a direct impact, it can't legislate in other countries, but it has massive moral influence. It's a superpower. It represents Western culture and Western freedoms. And so if the US were to pass this law sometime in the future, maybe at the time of the next election, if there was a Democratic government, all other countries in the Western world would be influenced and would say, we should pass this law. And there would be pressure from American NGOs. And it would also go into the developing world in countries strongly influenced by the US.
Are you an American citizen yourself?
I am indeed.
So this is getting very serious because In Malta, we talk about the fact that the victims, those who were once victims, seem to have become the aggressors in society. How is this bill a threat to the future of our children?
Well, certainly in the States and actually globally, because in many ways the U.S. is a leader for good and ill, it would force the LGBT minority, the rights issue on everyone, regardless. Basically, LGBT would become the equivalent of black. So gay is the new black. If this goes through, then in terms of the U.S. sponsoring various global groups, they would have to sign on. So that's how it would, and the embassies, all that the U.S. does internationally would be impacted.
Would you agree with me that it is actually individuals who have left the homosexual lifestyle that are being treated as second-class citizens, that are actually experiencing real discrimination and hatred? Do they have any representation? Are they getting the voice that they deserve?
I think the answer to that is no, and more of them need to become public and understand what's going on. We would encourage, if any of you are watching, to share the letter that we've put up online. I think in America some are agitating already and have spoken up, but there needs to be much more awareness that this Equality Act actually contains a ban on so-called conversion therapy. Most of the press has not reported this.
Tell me a little bit about your experience in Malta. We know that conversion practices have been deemed as illegal in Malta, and that has had an impact on people who have chosen to see things differently than maybe what the mainstream media would have us think. So what has it been like for you as an ex-LGBT individual?
Well, yes, I did come out recently in public as an ex-lesbian. And when my testimony came out, I got a lot of backlash, and I was bullied like on social media. It was I received a lot of hatred for it, and it just seems like I cannot express my life and my views because of this thing that's coming on from the LGBT side that is. That's just they want to silence us, and so we have been also threatened with fines and also jail time from the government because of these laws that are passing, and we are trying to fight for our freedom, the freedom to express ourselves and the freedom to be honest with everyone and to be able to speak in public.
Maybe the mainstream media at this point would be saying that, we need to bring an end to LGBT discrimination, and that your message would be harming individuals who are still coming out, and therefore it is right for you to be silenced. How would you respond to this?
Well, I think that's the exact opposite of equality, because if we're equal, you get to say your part and I get to say my part. So to tell me that someone else's story and experience is more important than mine, that's not equality.
What brought this change about?
The change in my life was actually Jesus Christ. When I met the true person of Jesus Christ, I was encouraged. I was changed from the inside, and it's an experience that I could never deny. And it's such a shame that people that are in government and in authority, they want to silence me and they want to take away my story and my experience. And I could never deny this.
Do you seriously think that the church is prepared to fight this battle?
The answer is no, and they need to be much better informed and much better prepared.
We look forward to see an uprising and just people speaking up all over the world.